Council reporting on public news. Annual notice now to the fire of Trenton newspaper. Posted on the bulletin board and city hall and policy clerk's office on March 1st, 2006. The agenda for this meeting is now posted and filed on April 13th, 2007. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. President. Yeah, Mr. Teagle is now on the business meeting. Here, present. Here. Thank you. Before we get started, let me take this opportunity to welcome back my colleagues from Northwood and Green School, Northwood Speaking School. Thank you for bringing me back safely to the highway survival. She had time traveling down and time traveling back. Thank God you made it back safely. Welcome back as always. Good to be back. Okay, this is a business to which our regular document. We're going to ask for a quick update with regards to the flood situation here in the city of Trenton, specifically the Delaware River and the Ashton Creek. After that, we'll have a very brief executive session on some case matters, and then we'll go into our agenda. Okay, so for the record, gentlemen, welcome. All right, and as always, these proceedings are being filmed and taped for humanity and prosperity by Mr. Paul Harris.
That's right, yes, I'm out there.
Anyway, gentlemen, for the record, please state your name and address. Please state your name and title for the record, as well as give us a preliminary update with regards to our latest natural disaster that we seem to face almost regularly when it's successive.
Len Cruciati, Director of Inspections and Construction Official for the City of Trenton.
Yes, sir.
Richard Lairs, Deputy Fire Chief, Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator.
You have the floor,
Okay, I'll give you an overview of where we stand now with the applicant to the Delaware River. As of 2:15 this afternoon, the Delaware River was at 18.64 feet. We become concerned at 20 feet. Between 21 feet, we start to go into action. Between 22 and 23, 22 feet, we actually have water on the roadways. 23, we basically have it coming over the banks. We were well below those figures this time. We're very fortunate. The northern part of the state, Pennsylvania, New York area, did not receive the same amount of rainfall that the eastern side of New Jersey did, so we were very fortunate. Presently, the Ashton Creek is at 8.16 feet. That means that it's back into the bank area. It's off the roadways. At 10 foot, we get water on Mulberry Street. This was the second largest recorded height of the Ashton.
What is flood stage again for Ashton?
The flood stage for the Ashton is 10 feet.
10 feet.
Yeah, but that starts the roadway. We aren't really affected until we get to 11 feet.
Okay, so where are we at right now?
Right now we're at 8.16.
Okay.
So the water, all the water's off the roadways. All the streets are reopened. Mulberry Street, North Clinton Avenue, Holden Avenues, they're all open now and passable for traffic. But that was the second highest reading. Flood stage we had was 13.28 feet was the highest. It's the second highest on record. So our mitigation effort for removing the homes along Mulberry Street really paid off, because we had 6 or 7 homes right there on the bend of North Clinton and Mulberry, which did receive some water, but we didn't have the extensive damage that we had for the residential properties along Mulberry Street. A number of the streets, this flood level for the Ashton Creek became an issue at the train station. Where the Ashton goes underground, it started to back up. We started getting water on the railroad tracks. When that happens, that usually flows down in a tunnel-type effect down the railroad tracks and goes down into the Bridge Street area, down behind Trenton on the Radiator. This time we were watching it. It became a point where the trains were slowed down to only one locomotive was allowed through the area at a time. However, it never went any farther than that, and it stopped at that point. And again, that's another area where keeping the maintenance of the Ashton Creek is very important, because we really didn't have any large buildup of debris at the overpasses and the underpasses. So that was another issue that contributed not too much damage. As far as the fire department's response to the recent issues, The Delaware River has not been a problem for us as it has been in the past. However, we did encounter a number of water conditions in between the period of Sunday, April 15th to Tuesday, April 17th, approximately a 2-day period. The fire department responded to over 200 calls for water in basements. Of those calls, 140 dwellings had to be pumped out. Currently, our list is down to 118 that we're addressing. Out of that 118, 68 have been completed. So we now only have 50 homes left that we have to finish dewatering and working with inspections to get services returned.
Can you specify the areas?
That was one of the problems with this storm. It's scattered all over the northern and western parts of the city. The largest streets that were hit, and this was 8 or more homes, were Hart, Highland, Boudinot, and Lee. But we have Montgomery, Rutherford, Laurel, Stuyvesant, Hayes, Cherry, Cornwall, Kelsey, St. Joe's, Morningside, Parkside, and the list just continues. If we had let me just give you a better. All the orange, so everybody can see this, are areas that have been affected by the floods. Now, we may have 1 or 2 homes on the street, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Or we could have anywhere from 10 to 20 homes on the street. It was sporadic. There's no explanation for it. I've been in the city fire department for 26 years, and we've had water in some neighborhoods we've never seen before. And there's absolutely no explanation for it, except for the fact that I think we had a concentrated load of rain of like 6.5 inches in 24 hours or something. You know, something that was parallel to Hurricane Floyd when that came through. So we're pumping or doing our dewatering assignments around the clock. We have companies that are out in service right now. We have 6 companies that are out, 3 utilities, 3 engine companies. They're working in the Avenue section now because that's the largest area at this present time that we're presently working on. And we'll continue pumping the basements until we're finished. But just a point so everyone knows is we're not pumping any vacant structures until the occupied structures have been pumped out, unless they're attached. Okay, because if they're attached, the water will seep into the occupied dwelling. Yes, sir.
Well, did you have anything to add to it?
Well, from our perspective, we were given a list of about 140 structures. And what the fire service had done was when they went into these structures, no matter what amount of water was in the buildings, the gas and electric were shut off, but they were shut off inside the houses. That is, the circuit breakers or panels were shut down and the gas valves are closed. So what we're doing, we have the entire department is now out on the street. We started at about 3:30 this afternoon. We will visit all 140 properties tonight. Before, we'll be here till about 10 o'clock. We will visit all 140. We'll do a survey of all of the properties to determine what damages we have. What we have also, our electrical inspectors will be working with 4 crews from public service. The fact that the electric has been shut down at the panel actually gives us the opportunity to fire up these properties more quickly. As of this afternoon, we've already had about 25 out of the 140 already the electric turned back on because the amount of water was not enough to cause us concern. Anything from 6 inches or less is not a problem for turning the electric back on. Where we're going to run into the problems is that the gas and electric, the gas units, the hot water heaters and the furnaces, when you get 6 inches or less, those units are put out of commission. Right now, the gas shop of public service is not in the city right now. They will be available tomorrow. We've been in constant contact with them. They have 100 work orders that they're going to be working off of. So we're very optimistic that we're going to be able to get the lion's share of the 140 homes back up and running, and as well as get the gas units for hot water and heat up tomorrow or the next day. But we should be pretty much out of this by I believe, Friday. You know, our goal is actually to have it done by tomorrow, but there are a number of properties that we haven't been able to get into, and we are leaving no entries. We will be working until 10 tonight, and tomorrow all work assignments other than emergencies, other than this flood, we'll be working on the flood to make sure that we get as many of the units reoccupied. One of the things that we're experiencing is that while we did not order a vacation of the properties, you know, without the services, people are not supposed to be in those buildings. We do know that a number of people have gone back into their properties, and we want to make sure that we get those properties safe for reoccupancy. Since we didn't shut the electric and the gas off outside the buildings, we want to make sure that no one, you know, turns them on accidentally or turns them on and tries to use this power if there are problems. So we're going to get on top of it as quickly as possible, and I expect a good success on this. We should be okay with this. It's very different than any of the other floods, and as one who's been here a very, very long time, this is a different type of a water situation. And again, as the chief said, what we have is just a tremendous saturation of the ground in such a very short period of time. Our water problems actually are coming up through the floor. In many of the instances, it's a seepage up through the floor system, not like we've seen through the windows and through the walls, up through the floor. But with that, it also makes it a little easier to clean up. Some of the properties with the drop in the water table have already drained out, and it's less work. There's cleanup for the property owners, but we're able to get inside, and they're able to get inside and get themselves fired up a little bit more quickly. The other issue that we're going to have to deal with, of course, is those that cannot afford to buy new hot water heaters and heaters. We haven't hit that yet, but I know that it will be coming because a number of the units have been underwater. You cannot repair those units anymore because there are other health concerns and environmental issues in repairing them. So we're looking towards a number of people that are going to need, you know, they're going to be looking for some assistance with regard to hot water heaters and heaters. We're going to be dealing through the administration as to how we handle that problem and then reporting back to council as necessary.
And we take this opportunity to open up for questions. Mr. Fay, yes, sir.
Thank you. Sir, since you said this a number of years, we've never seen a situation, a water situation like this in the basement. With the resources that you have to allocate to do this, it's not covering on the services that you have to provide. There have not been any fires or anything of that nature.
No, our regular fire duty has been up extensively during this time period. We did have to call in a couple reserve companies yesterday because we just couldn't keep up with the workload. So what we had our dispatchers do was actually prioritize the calls. Okay, what we call stacking is where if we had water in the basement, we would just put it in the order that the complaints come in. And we would handle all of our emergency calls at the same time. We had a bad fire today on Brunswick Avenue around 8:30, 9 o'clock. I think it was a suspicious fire. We had a number of building collapses, nothing very extensive, just ceilings and shed areas and things like that. One of the biggest things we did encounter with the water, the people that have gas service, CO meters now, the CO detectors in the homes are going off because the gas is flowing freely. So we had a number of incidents on top of the water signs that we had. But at no time was the city ever in any jeopardy of any kind of fire coverage. Because if it needed to be, we could have called mutual aid to cover our stations.
So now, will they be, since this is a once in a, for lack of a better term, since this was a perfect storm, you're not predicting that we'll have the situation again with the water in the basements and so forth and so on, or we just don't know how?
Well, we really don't know because we did look to see if there was any common factors. You know, if there was a water runoffs in certain areas. Spoke to just from people from being here. Yes, just talking to people who lived here for years and years and years. Have you ever seen this before? No. It's like I said, for 26 years myself. Some of the neighborhoods we had water when we never had before. So just one of those things. Wherever the water puddled, that way they were the neighborhoods, or wherever the water funneled through, they were the neighborhoods that sustained the water down.
And I did get some response from some of my constituents, and they were really happy the way you replied and responded to the situation and something of what I was facing.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Chief, for relaying that message. There was no need for me to call you back. I'm finished, sir.
Yes, sir. Ms. Costa.
Mr. Harris, what kind of citizens of Trenton do? That's just, if anything.
Well, there's a couple things that we did run into. I had a gentleman in my office today who complimented the firefighter for actually digging a trench alongside of his house. And he contributed from not doing proper property maintenance, for letting leaves build up around the property and not letting the water flow properly. So instead of the water flowing, which is supposed to be down towards the street and away from the properties, it was actually flowing the opposite way towards the houses. The big property maintenance, and ground surface like that is probably one of the biggest areas that could help. Now, the second thing would be anybody is vulnerable to having water in their basement. So it might be something you might want to look at whether or not sub pumps could be installed, some type of drainage system, things like that, which we can get out and advise people what we can do.
If property owners have questions about the possibility of pumps, we're available to provide assistance and direction on the appropriate installation, a manner of installation for them, because they have to be actually installed in an area of the basement where the floor has somewhat of a pitch so that the water will run, or you have to dig a French drain around the perimeter of the foundation wall. We will be able to provide some advice and direction with that, because we worked on quite a few properties where we have these sumps. And the dovetail on the chief, property maintenance, and I can't stress the need for property maintenance. Just as something as simple as cleaning the gutters and the downspouts on your house, and we received just an inordinate number of issues with regard to roof leaks and other types of situations. And the biggest thing that you could do with your property as a property owner is to make sure that you maintain the gutters, the downspouts, and that you allow the water to drain away from the property. And we are available if any of the citizens have questions with regard to issues that they may be experiencing around their properties or adjoining properties for advice and direction. Yes.
Good job, Emily. You've had too much practice at this last year.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Long, yes, sir.
I don't have any questions, Mr.
Considering
President, but
the area, whether you can
we had a couple of homes actually that called out to the fire department, and I myself bailed out, I think, about 30 gallons out of my basement with my shop vac, so I was busy Sunday myself. And again, it's due to the puddling that occurs in the yard, and the drainage not running quick enough down the sidewalk and remaining in the grass area and coming through the walls itself. So this weekend maybe I'll be coating walls in my basement, I guess, with some Loctite or water seal. What I also want to say is, once again, the Red Cross needs to be commended in addition to the city administration in assisting residents throughout our city. Time and time again, they're there for us. Wonderful organization. A little pitch to those that do payroll deductions. They do take payroll deductions as a donation, but I do want to commend them on their efforts in our city once again.
Mr. Gordon, yes, sir.
I just have one question. One of the gentlemen mentioned that there might be some people that maybe have damaged equipment heaters or something like that.
Yes.
But you're not addressing that at this time.
Well, we don't have a tally, Councilman, and that's why we're doing the general surveys tonight. We want to look at all 140 properties that are affected. We want to be able to take a look at the systems, and we'll be able to tell where the water levels hit. Some of the places have not been pumped out. Well, we're going to be looking at those properties also, and then we'll have an idea of what damages we have with regard to those appliances and what may have to be replaced. But I will tell you that Public Service has been very clear that you're no longer allowed to repair those appliances. The reason for that is once the water gets inside the jackets, there's an insulation in there. Once that insulation gets wet, they found that after they make the repairs and it dries out, they've had a mold and mildew problem develop, and that's a very serious environmental issue inside a property. So the manufacturers are very clear now that they don't want these things repaired and that you're going to have to replace the appliances. So that's something that we're going to have to see, just exactly what the numbers are. My suspicion is that we have a number of properties that had 1, 2, 3 inches of water. They're not going to, we have a large number of them, and I don't believe that we're going to have to replace those appliances at this time because most of the time those units are jacked up on a platform or brick or masonry. So I think we're going to have a number, but it's not going to be a tremendous number of replacements.
In case you find out members of family are in that need, do we have any resources in case they cannot come up with their own? Do we have anything in place to help those people now?
Not that I'm aware of at this point, but again, we need to find out the numbers, and then we will take this back to the administration and try to discuss to see if there's anything that can be done to assist.
Yeah, I'm just saying in case.
Right, in case
they are,
Well, the other issue is, and that's a strong point, everybody's got homeowners insurance for the most part. They must report this to the homeowners insurance and then see where the homeowners insurance goes with that. For the most part, we believe that's a replacement cost that should be borne by the insurance companies. But if there's some outstanding issues, we'll just have to look at it.
I know, and just the last thing, remember that not necessarily if they have home insurance, those things, are taken care by, because, flows are different from
Right.
the regular insurance.
Right.
So, but that's all I have. And Chief, thank you so much for the call. I made some phone call accordingly, and people were very happy. So thank you very much. In the way that you gentlemen handle the situation across. Thank you. That's all, Mr. President.
Ms. Statement, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to piggyback on Manny's question about homes that do suffer some damage, and if the homeowner, property owner, doesn't report it, it's a rental property. So if renters feel like something is still unsafe, would they call your office?
Absolutely.
To have to come out? Now, are you going for the homes that had the flooding? Are you going through all of them?
Every one of them, all 140
You're going to check
tonight.
them yourself?
Yes.
And what kind of timeline do they have to get that repaired? If need be?
Well, obviously, if we have the electric back on, they do have some time to get the hot water systems back up and running. I mean, we're starting to come out, even though it's very cold right now in mid-April, we are coming out of the supposed heating season, so they will be able to buy themselves some time to replace the heating units. But we will be tracking, as we did with the island and Glen Afton, we tracked that within about the record that we had, our record showed that about 90 days after the incident, everybody was done, squared away, and they were all fired back up with the appropriate appliances.
Well, the only other thing I had is accolades for the fire department for the quick response to expressing emergency to residents. I got a few calls on how good the firemen were to come out and to help the residents evacuate and deal with the things that were going on in their homes. And to the administration for the very timely and updated report on everything that was going on. I appreciate that very much. I thought you guys responded the city as a whole responded very well to this crisis. So, kudos to the staff. Good job, well done.
Thank you, Steve. Credit to the 911 system. I guess a week and a half of testing it, and then utilizing it for a real-time emergency. Let me just verify a couple of things you said, Chief Laird, just so that I have understanding. So, your last measured recording of the Delaware was 18.6 feet.
18.6.
And that was around 2 o'clock this afternoon?
2:15, yes.
2:15 this afternoon?
Yes.
Is there anticipation that will go up, or that's where it will remain at for now?
No, our title, both of the title charts for the Aspen and the Delaware have it lowering in 6-hour increments steadily.
So that's different from the report that went out via the reverse 911, which stated that the river would crest around 20 feet. You anticipated a crescent?
We anticipated a crescent at 20 feet. However, we originally anticipated 20.4.
We're saying the right thing. I want to make sure.
Yeah,
you're playing high, but you're glad that it stayed low.
Right, but it actually crested at 18.8.
Okay.
So it was lower than the predictions.
Now let me ask you, now with regard to the same message that goes out in reverse 911 to North Trenton residents, specifically those that are left in the Ashland Peak area, does that message modify itself to what you anticipate the Ashland Peak doing, or is that another whole message, or is that a message that goes out at all?
Okay, well that would be a separate message, but we didn't do anything with the Ashland Peak because we only had several homes.
Okay, based on the impact?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and it receded so quickly.
Okay.
And it was off the streets and back into the banks in a very short
So
period.
let me make sure I understand. At its high peak was 13 feet at the Ashland Peak, and then your last measurable was at 8 foot?
Yes.
All right.
The high for it was 2 p.m. yesterday was 13.28.
Right.
It was high for the Ashland. Today at 2:15 it was 8.16.
Okay, so now we're receiving, we're going back in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It should be almost completely back into its banks.
Okay, and all the streets are open?
Yes.
Okay.
And clean. We assisted the washing the streets and sidewalks and all down to the...
Let me just shift just a second to Mr. Cucciati. Mr. Cucciati, structural, I know you talked about responding to over 100 calls. Are there any structural damages to properties where based on this rain and the soil being softened up, that we can have structural damages? Are you taking a look at those as you're looking at these properties that are asking for development?
As a result of the rain, we had no real major structural damage to occupied structures, and that we found very interesting. I know I made a number of inspections myself over the weekend to take a look at these things as they were coming in, and we didn't have any major problems structurally. Where we have had some problems is that some of the vacant structures that we have in different areas of the city, we have had some partial collapses. They are unoccupied structures, and what we're doing with the money that we have through our loan program, we're going to be removing those bad structures as quickly as possible, so that they don't cause any further trouble for the man. I can't think of it. trouble, or unsafe conditions within the neighborhoods because they're in some residential neighborhoods that we have to deal with. So that's in one way it's good that they're in abandoned structures and that none of the occupied structures were affected. Minimal, as the chief said, ceilings collapsing. Things of that nature, but no one hurt, and that's very important. We got through this whereby we responded as quickly as possible, and we had no one hurt at all through this. And that to me is the number one important factor that was going through here.
Again, I just shift the conversation one more time. Ms. Haynes, I don't see the Director of Public Works here, but let me make some assumptions, some city assumptions, hopefully. But prior to the question, that's Mr. Allen, he's not directing you. Any compromise to the water system?
No, sir.
Has that been checked? And the reason why I say if you ride down 29 and you look to the left, you will see half the streets depression underwater.
No, we had some rumors that I'm sure Chief Blair can speak to that did come through that we did have to address. So I'll get back to Chief Blair on that. But there were no problems.
Yeah, there were several rumors that popped up right away about the problems with the filtration system and all, and they were addressed immediately. That we at no time had any issues with the filtration plant whatsoever.
The water filtration plant is operating efficiently and pumping the water in and pumping the water out?
Yes, it is.
Any compromise to the reservoir?
No, sir. No. The effectiveness were totally different than our...
But that's almost a question you have to answer every time because of the rumor on how it gets started and the question and so forth. I think that's pretty much it. Other than basically what you're telling me, that's the scattered portion of it, is just basically the excessive waterfalls and low levels and the saturation of the certain areas, low levels, I guess?
Yes, well, you know that there are a number of areas in this city, especially in the north, some parts of the west that already have high water tables, even in some areas in the south. And when we get a saturation, a tremendous concentration of rain like we had this past weekend, those tables rise very quickly. And that what we're experiencing is a result of those tables, just exploding, coming back up through the floors of the properties, because that's where the water came through, the floor systems of the properties. So that's a tremendous saturation over a short period of time with a lot of water.
No loss of life?
No
injuries.
No injuries at all.
None. Well, let me echo all the comments of my colleagues here. I just wanted to make sure from the safety aspect of some of the other things that weren't necessarily asked, but also from Deputy Haynes, acting there, Haynes, I guess, Deputy Blair, and Mr. Kuchari, as always, and for all those who participated and assisted in this effort. I think the comment was pretty good at this. I wish I didn't have to say this. Well, it's good to be prepared, I guess. That's probably the best thing to say right now in terms of preparation. The sad thing is I told somebody just recently, too, that we probably would experience this again, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to experience this again and again, and not just a natural, something natural and anticipated, presumably with high winds and high rain. So I guess you have to remain vigilant at all times. That's correct. Absolutely. Gentlemen, I thank you very much. There's nothing else for the record.
Nope.
Thank you, and please keep us abreast. Thank you. All right. Motion for the executive session.
We have a resolution authorizing the executive session of city council on the discussion of pending litigation. Second.
All in favor? Ayes have it. We have to ask everyone to vacate for Tuesday. On Thursday, in our public session, we'll have a moment of silence as the nation mourns the tragic loss of so many young lives who take University past Monday. We do that. I've also instructed Mr. Carabelli to forward a letter on behalf of the city council to Governor Corzine and individually wishing him speedy recovery in light of the accident that he was in last week as well. So I'll ask for those prayers for his speedy recovery same Thursday. Please get that for the record. Okay? Also, you will also see some of the colleges that on behalf of council, I did forward a letter to CBS Radio with regard to the inappropriate comments made by Mr. Don Ines. Subsequently, due diligence resolved that matter. So hopefully, the national uproar with council's letter strongly supported the actions that took place. Those are just a couple updates for the record, okay? We're back on the record with, I'm sorry, yes, sir. That's always appropriate, Mr. I know he's on national television as well. I'm not willing to put that in form of motion on behalf of the council. For the letter also to the president of the University of Virginia Tech, Dr. Burton Jr., expressing our condolences and our prayers upon the University of Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Always appropriate. Okay. Hey, you want to take it? No. You want to ask him to? Okay. All right. We're back to docket review. Madam Clerk, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Public hearing on the following ordinances. A1AO, bond ordinance providing that the George Page Technical Field improvement and expansion owned by the city of Trenton in the county of Berkshire, New Jersey, appropriating the aggregate amount of $1,600,000, therefore authorizing the issuance of $800,000 in bonds and notes for the city to finance part of the cost of it.
Is Mr. President, just for the record again, I don't know how long, I don't know if you, Mr. Zagori, you have it with me. I don't know how long you've been here, with regards to recreation. But Hessel Field, more or less, although George State Park being part of that has been a labor of love to Mr. Segura. Can you tell us exactly what this ordinance will do with regards to Hessel Field? And if you can give us an estimate or a guesstimated time of when these dollars will be spent for improvements for that parking field. And is the clubhouse up and running? The field house again?
The clubhouse is just, you're talking about the bathroom?
Yeah.
We actually set the ribbon cutting for end of the month, just waiting on Mayor's calendar, make sure that's
All right. Is that prior to the softball season being open?
It will be on the opening day, hopefully, of the softball season.
Okay. All right, thank you. So with regards to this money, what will this money do to George Page Park in Hessel Field?
I have to say, I'm not sure exactly what the 1.6 million is going towards. I know that there are many renovations there. There's a plan that has been set forth, which is multiple millions of dollars. But this is to add to the field itself, with the bathroom, which is almost finished. We're still preparing for some of that.
If you do me a favor, I won't put you on the spot anymore. If you can provide Mr. DeFeo, as well as particularly Mr. Segura, and members of the council, and that would necessarily propose spending, so that is money at Page Park in Hessel Field.
Okay.
It's been a long time coming, so I think we'd be happy to see. Mr. Segura, Mr. Davis, you want to comment? Mr. Segura?
No, I just hope that since you and I, and sort of Mr. Christian too, you occasion we went there physically, as the needs that need to be addressed. So I hope that in line, they will be addressed accordingly. From what we saw physically over there.
But the field house restroom will be available.
It will be available. We're all set there. The ribbon cutting will be hopefully on the 29th.
Mr. Monk? Man, your hair get darker too, man. Madam Clerk, yes, ma'am.
1BO, an ordinance to reduce basic and extinguish funeral home registrants into a portion of Willie Alley. 1CO.
Yeah, just for the record, we have to move ahead. We try to move ahead in the council.
The previous one was moved by Mr. Buffet and Mr. Segura. That's the second one I read. It was moved by Mr. Buffet. 1CO, ordinance authorizing a lease between City of Trenton and Eva Cadura for use of vacant city-owned property for gardening. 1BO, an ordinance authorizing a lease between the City of Trenton and Patricia Williams for the use of vacant city-owned property for gardening. That was moved by Mr. Costa. 1EO, an ordinance authorizing a lease between the City of Trenton and James Davis for the use of vacant city-owned property for gardening. That was moved by Mr. Malone. 1FO, an ordinance authorizing a lease between the City of Trenton and LaCruz Shaw. For the use of vacant city-owned property for gardening. That was moved by Mr. DeFeo. 1PO, an ordinance amending the ordinance continuing certain positions, fixing salary limits, therefore, and setting forth certain terms for the implementation of the contract with the Trenton Fire Officers Association, ordinance number 00-54, adopted on August 7, 2000.
This is for the training person,
Training officer.
Training officer. Okay.
It was moved by Mr. Segura and Mr. Malone. 1HO, an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement between the City of Trenton and the State of New Jersey Department of Treasury, Division of Property Management and Construction, Office of Real Property Management, and the property located at 1 John Fitz Road, Trenton, New Jersey. Was moved by Mr. Segura.
Communications officials, ladies and gentlemen, any communications in particular?
Mr. President, I'd like to have 2A.
2A, 2A.
2L.
2A,
2L and 2M.
2L, and 2M. You can review them or you want to respond? Can we move on?
Yeah.
2A, 2L, and 2M.
This is all my hero.
Any reports? Any applications of mine? New business?
5AR, a resolution authorizing the installation of a wireless data link from the Trenton Library new branch to City Hall and a wireless camera link between 5 cameras located around the perimeter of City Hall and the City Hall network to the Department of Administration, Division of Information Technology, to the State of New Jersey Cooperative Program without competitive bidding in the amount not to exceed $33,108.80.
Ms. Pikeman, what was due? For the record.
Five AR.
5AR.
Yes, 5AR.
Okay. This basically is to establish wireless connection between the Trenton Public Library, the main branch, and City Hall, so that we can basically communicate wirelessly with them to transmit data, to give them an additional very fast link.
And what type of information are you, I'm just out of curiosity.
Basically for their own transmission of data and for our communication with them in terms of security equipment, excuse me, security cameras, and also for their ability to have access to the internet.
So there'll be a link between the library and City Hall?
Yes, they'll be part of our network.
Mr. Moore,
They didn't have that prior with cable, as far as cabling. I know we cabled the library some time ago, like recall resolution, some time past.
That was a long time ago.
But they
Yeah.
were able to communicate, throughout all this time
This
prior
will be
to.
a much faster link, okay, much faster.
But they did have communication.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
No, but not in the same way. They have communication amongst their own branches, actually. That's where the communication lies.
Right.
You say his name.
It will be Karen Stevens to the police department. Yeah.
Next one,
5DR, resolution authorizing the award of a contract to a fair and open process in accordance with NJSA 19-44A-20.5 except the Pasco, Inc. of Freehold, New Jersey, for the furnishing and delivery of all labor, equipment, and materials for an automatic irrigation system at the multi-purpose field on West State Street to the Department of Recreation, Natural Resources and Culture, Division of Natural Resources, in an amount not to exceed $26,655.
I got to ask this question. I understood it. Let me make sure I'm clear. You want to install an irrigation system on the multi-purpose field that sits opposite Outfit High West or Holland, Little field right there where they play.
That's correct, where the football field is correct.
All right, let me ask this one question just for the record. A couple of years ago when we first, I guess, kind of got that property, we fixed it up and we grew grass, and we had to fence around the property for a long time, we was trying to grow grass and everything else. The process with regards to irrigating that field now, do you have to tear that field up completely again?
They don't have to tear it up completely, but it's essential that they do put the irrigation system in. For anybody that understands anything about the playground, different parts, you really, in most municipalities, they are actually allowed to allow the public to only use it for 16 hours out of a week. Mm-hmm. And our fields get much more use than that.
Right.
The biggest challenge to keeping grass on them is because they're not irrigated. So when we did the clay courts, we irrigated those, but we didn't irrigate the field.
But I guess what I'm asking with regards to installation.
They'll still be able to utilize it. They won't have to tear it all the way up. You can actually push piping down into the ground with a splitter that'll split it and almost just sew the ground like that. So they're not going to miss anything.
Any questions, Chairman? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, yes, ma'am.
CR resolution authorizing purchase of 8 FCS 2500 portable radios for successful from Motorola Corporation of Burlington, New Jersey, to the Department of Administration, Division of Communications, to the State of New Jersey Cooperative Program, without competitive bidding, in an amount not to exceed $23,059.20. President, those for council?
Only 7 members on council.
They're for the fire department.
Scratch that from the record.
Department.
Thank you. All right.
Honorable order. Who's first order? Who's first that, Jim?
Let's just keep going with it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President.
Resolution authorizing an award of an emergency contract with CWT Naval Contractor, Trenton, New Jersey, for emergency structural engineering repairs at 110-112 South Warren Street in an amount not to exceed $32,250.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
can you give me an overview of 110-112 South Warren Street?
Well, max needs is what, 120? So, yes, sir.
That's the cleaners.
Oh, carousel cleaners?
No, it's the cleaners. The carousel is 118. This is the cleaners right next to the parking lot.
In the big lot. Okay.
We purchased the cleaners and the lot. A part of the purchase price was withheld for environmental matters, and we had also purchased it for $40,000 less than the appraised value. Our initial inspection of the structure, we do own it now, is that there are some structural things that need to be done, and it would be slated for redevelopment.
They get my shirt stuff. Yes, ma'am. Madam Clerk, yes, ma'am.
All right, we are resolution canceling old outstanding expenditure clearing account checks. FR resolution authorizing application for a grant in the amount of $40,000 for playground equipment for new Greg Grant Park in the amount of $40,000. Mr. President,
Very good. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to get confirmation on Greg Grant's name.
Was it 2 G's
That's
or
the
1
one
G?
out there, why do we got 2 G's on his name?
There should be the 2 G's. Talking about his first name. First name, gotcha.
The first G is fine.
The only one G? You know what?
There you go.
Please make the correct address. That's good. I'm familiar with that campaign project. That should be real good.
5GR, resolution amending resolution 06-7152 in the city of Trenton and the College of New Jersey, School of Nursing in Newland, New Jersey, to change the account number of the money owed to Leslie Rice. 5HR, resolution authorizing the acceptance of the fiscal year 2007 state and local tax force agreement provided by the United States Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration in the city of Trenton, New Jersey, Police Department in the amount of $15,572.75.
Is it safe to say that DEA was involved in that Willow Street operation, Madam Clerk? No, I'm not shooting. Ms. Haynes?
I'm sorry, sir.
I said, it's safe to assume that DEA was involved in the drug activity on Willow Street that was broken up a couple weeks ago?
The DEA or this grant?
Well, no, this is an agreement with DEA to have DEA officials in association with Trenton police officers?
No, it's just funding that's provided by the DEA.
It's funny, like I said, we don't supply
No,
personnel for that?
it goes to pay for our officers' time in those kinds of efforts.
Well, yeah. I mean, so there's not DEA personnel?
No, this is not what this is for. I won't say that there weren't DEA personnel at that incident. I'm just saying that's not what this is for.
I guess I was commenting to the fact that we have interlocal agreements with like the FBI,
Yes.
DEA, state
Yes.
police.
Yes.
This is not that type of agreement.
No, this is a grant acceptance, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's for grant acceptance.
Please.
So to pay for overtime for our detectives that work in those DEA-related kind of activities, drug enforcement.
But it's also part of that task force.
Oh, that's what I was
Yes,
thinking.
it is.
Yes, it's a part of the
Yeah,
task force, our agent, our
Right.
detective, yes.
5IR, resolution authorizing an application for a highway safety grant from the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety ticket bill.
Sponsored by the government.
5JR, resolution approving the Capital South Neighborhood Preservation Program work plan in years 3 to 5 to enable the city to receive funds from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Neighborhood Preservation Program in the amount of $521,000.
Mr. Coffey, yes, sir.
Mr. Greenwald, I have not sure I've got my questions to do. What year are we in?
Make sure you're talking about the grant for South? Capital South?
Capital South.
I think we're in the fourth year. This is a little belated, but it's the 3 to 5 year plan that is required to be submitted to DCA for the purpose of getting reimbursement for some expenditures and for the purpose of allowing reimbursement for expenditures over the next 2 years for home repairs. And just note that the Capital South program is not really part of the Capital South commercial entity that's out there. This is a separate program run through our division of planning, and it's specifically for residents, not commercial entities.
Ms. Cook, you've got a good person on the ground. Who's the liaison? The request for reimbursement goes within City Hall.
Our employee that works this program is Stephanie.
So she goes straight to departments with requests or trying to coordinate things?
She works for the Department of
Right, so here's the person supposed to filter out. In talking to some of the residents who like the program and see the resource, there's been some trouble with coordination of trying to get different departments on board for different things, or inspections or public works and things like that. Just wondering who's on point in terms of
Well, Stephanie is the project manager, and she is responsible for ensuring that it all gets done. She reports to the director of planning, who reports to the director of the department. But if there are issues with other departments, and if the project manager believes that there are issues, the project manager should go to her supervisor to address those issues.
Because if you don't mind me asking specifically, do you have any specifics? I know Ms. Register personally, and I know she's always dotted I's and crossed the T's.
Well, my understanding that the program is supposed to spend about $100,000 a year for the program. We have the 5 years, spending about $100,000 per year. We're in year 4, and according to the state, we've got a little bit over $300,000 left to spend. It's great to go out with a bang. Just want to make sure that the wheels are moved smoothly, because there's a fight on this. If we don't spend the money that the state allocates for us to spend, they'll take it back.
Is that based on the proposal coming in on a timely basis? I don't know.
Well, I don't even, I'm asking for more clarification. I like the plan. I would also like to have a conversation at some point with what's going to happen with that building once this 5-year program is concluded. It has been a resource for the residents.
And business to a lesser degree. Thank you, Mr. President.
No problem.
I'll have to sign it.
For the record, Ms. Haynes, with regards to the remaining years, and or any plans for the capital fund, and the use of the structure,
Page 21, South Park.
page 21 South Park. I'm just saying, I'm saying to you, I'm just saying just for review,
Okay.
the latter years of the grant in terms of its usage, and any estimated plans for the building once, if in fact it's in the interest of the city to maintain the program. Maybe we can renew the grant again. I don't know too. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, I'm first.
5KR resolution authorizing the purchase of GIS servers for City Hall for the Department of Administration Division of Information Technology for the State of New Jersey Cooperative Program without competitive bidding in an amount not to exceed $22,029. 5LR resolution authorizing sub-grant agreement between the City of Trenton and various charitable nonprofit organizations for implementation of a job readiness and employment skills attainment program for 25 out of school youth in the ages of 16 to 21 years old. 5MR resolution authorizing the release of a performance bond with Star Insurance Company of New Britain, Connecticut for voice-over internet protocol services performed by Nextra One LLC in an amount of $152,172.
I need to put the other way.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk.
You have a question? Which one are you talking about, for the record?
Before we found the X-Star. When we purchased our voice over IP phones from Cisco, they were serviced by a company called Nextera One, which went out of business or basically sold off its business to X-Star to, I'm sorry. They basically went out of business. Yeah. All right, bottom line, and the company that took over their business is one which is not one which we're particularly happy with. So we're releasing a bond in order for us to go to bid for another company to provide support for our system. They sold off their business to a company called Black Box. And we've been using Black Box since 2005, but at this point, they're not providing the level of service or support that we're looking for. So there is a bond that is in Nextera's name, which we're releasing at this point.
Madam Clerk, ma'am.
5NR resolution authorizing the award of a contract to a non-fair and open process with dental services organization in Avenel, New Jersey, to provide dental health insurance to the employees of the City of Trenton.
What's the length of this contract, Ms. Feigenbaum?
Pardon me?
What's the length of the contract?
It's a 3-year contract.
Is that what we're doing now, on average, 3-year contracts?
Depends on the service.
Sure.
This is a company that the city has had for a number of years. It's the closed dental program.
This is optional.
This is the BMO, yes, it's optional.
We couldn't find somebody about who to do that.
Ms. Haynes, yes, ma'am.
Just want to be careful because, you know, I registered twice. I went non-fair, local process, system vote here. Yeah, well, we didn't, normally, we would go through a process where we have a competitive contract. But this is a contract that expired, and we didn't have an RFP prepared because we had a service with them before the whole process of fair and open came into being. And given the fact that we had no coverage, we went ahead and got quotes without doing a formal RFP or a competitive contract.
OR, resolution canceling permits and authorizing and directing return of fees. Deedwood Contracting, $43. By PO or ordinance authorizing the acquisition of real property in the Laverton Street redevelopment area known as 739 Center Street, Block 11903, Lot 7, from Orca Equities LLC.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Mr. Compton.
Mr. Gonzalez, any idea when this will come down?
How soon this will come down? Well, we can't bring it down until we own it. So it'll be a couple of months as we go through this process. We're looking to close in about 2 months, and hopefully it'll come down shortly thereafter. We've already closed on 725. So we're talking to Chiati about working that structure into a demolition package as well.
Any chance we'll break ground on the construction end this year?
I believe there is a chance that we'll be able to do that. The remaining properties, I believe we're within a week or so of filing the condemnation actions.
Mr. Captain, is there the property that Ms. Kennedy talks about, the question of the roof?
Yes.
It is the property. I think it's a fairly new roof on it, for whatever reason.
Right.
Thanks, Mr.
It now has a blue tarp on the side.
It does come with a yeah, there's some repairs on the property.
You got both responded.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Clerk.
By PO ordinance approving amendments to the Ewing Carroll Southern Street redevelopment area.
I'll ask this question, Mr. Gonzalez, just to Lou, because I know you worked on this as well. How many amendments have we had to this package?
Mr. Council President,
Roughly.
it's been such a long time since I've been in that department, I really don't recall.
Okay, it's been that many.
Good question.
It's been that many, okay. I guess, I'm kind of laughing, but it seems to expand, a little parcel here, a little parcel there, and ultimately, next thing you know, it's just going to be from Perry Street to Brownsville Avenue.
Well, ultimately, the goal is to incorporate the vacant lots along Perry and across the street from the school, the back of the school, as well as the property that is used as storage by the Board of Education currently, and have that be the final large piece of restructuring the Ewing Carroll neighborhood.
All right, so hopefully this should hit all amendments. I know this has come back to us a couple times.
I think this should, and I think that the focus will be on residential, since that's been successful on Ewing Carroll.
I agree with you. I ride through there, I see the houses. Yes, ma'am.
5RO ordinance conducting the city street to be known as Independence Lane.
Yes, ma'am.
I am going to sign off, Mr. I'm surprised the net didn't want this thing with T Lane or Net Alley or something like that. I'm surprised it gets to be in the business like that, but
No, I think the original proposal was to make it Dottie Palmer.
Dottie Palmer, oh, really?
And
Yeah.
the mayor wasn't supporting that. I'm sure she would say thank you.
It'll come back.
Thank you. I think got one on the agenda.
On the agenda, we have a report that there is a sort of a raffle that has been approved on April 17th. We are an African people team.
Last one on the agenda.
Resolution 5SR authorizing application fiscal year 2007 bulletproof jet partnership grant program U.S.
Thank you,
Department
sir.
of Justice program.
Everything is
All right, anything else?
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Fire Mom, Ms. Haynes, anything else for the record?
Yeah,
That's it? Thank you. Okay, before we move on to, public comment on subject matter, Mr. Alonzo, anything on the ABC for the record?
With regard to Club XL, we did receive a copy of the order extending the license of Club XL pending the appeal. Keeping in mind that the license is a pocket license now because they've lost their lease. So what the director has done is basically allow that license to continue and can't be opened anywhere until such time as the appeal is heard. And we get our money for the license fee. No doubt.
Let me just clarify for the record. The establishment is closed. You know that.
Well, yeah, they've been evicted, so.
Well, that was never our concern whether they got evicted.
They cannot open anywhere with that unless we do it through our registration. Once they lose their license and their lease, by operation of law, that license is
So what do they review their appeal before the agency director is
appealing our decision, which is revoke their license.
Any other agency matters for the record? All right, motion going to public comment? Motion. Second it, and all in favor. Let me start to my left, I work my way around. Please state your name and address clearly for the record, please.
James Scott, Trenton, Avenue,
Thank you, sir.
New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, I'd just like to commend the city, the fire, the police, and the administration for the job that they've done over this flood thing. And they just stepped up and did a heck of a job. They let everybody in the city know what was going on. And I'd like to especially thank Mr. Malone and Manny and all the council people doing a tremendous job. And we can't thank you enough. Like I said, I wouldn't have the job. It's a thankless job, but you guys are doing a heck of a job. Keep up the good work.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Anything further? Please state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
My name is Mike Torres. I live at 309 Walnut Avenue.
Yes, sir. Mr. Torres, 309 Walnut Avenue. Yes, sir.
Yes, I would like to personally thank the mayor's secretaries, Ms. D, as I know her, Mr.
We don't call them secretary. We call them E. They're part of our team.
Okay, well,
they do far more than secretarial work.
The staffing down there
Thank you.
came through in a pinch. There was a tree that was covering a street light in the alleyway behind our properties that for years I addressed and tried to get removed. We couldn't seem to get on the same sheet of music with it between different departments. Finally, I volunteered to cut it down. I cut it down myself and assembled it in a way where Shade Tree could come and pick it up very easily. And when they came, of course, it took a little time for that process to happen. There were some city officials that came out and take pictures and things. There was some miscommunication along the way. But overall, long story short, the tree has been removed. We can see the properties in the back now. The tree has been removed, and it's gone. So I wanted to personally thank Mr. Wayward and Phyllis Holly for their input in that.
Mr. Torres, that means a lot. Thank you for coming, taking time out of your schedule to come down here. Wanted to say that Ms. Dixon doesn't get the credit that she's often due, but we hear from a number of citizens who she does help out.
I try to do a little bit on my behalf. I try to, help out.
I would share with you from a liability purpose. you should let us do that. So that
I understand.
I'm sure you heard that. This is the first time I'm telling you.
It's been said to me multiple times.
Yeah, you don't want to cut a tree down.
It gets to a point where we have concerns with people ducking in alleys and hiding. And the light that is there provides light for a purpose.
Yeah.
And when that tree grows up over that light, we can't see.
Right.
So, I felt it was important enough to take it upon myself to do that. And with the cooperation of, your staff, it was resolved.
And always please feel free to contact Mr. Edwards. You have the councilman in the East Ward, Mr. General Malone, any of the at-large members or any member of this council who may be able to assist you. Well, thank you again for taking time. Thank you. Ms. Bolton, you be commended as always. Yes, sir. Anybody else to my right? To my immediate right? Anyone before you?
Yeah, Miss Stewart.
Oh, okay.
Anyone before you, Ms. Stewart?
Okay.
Yeah, anything?
All right, I'm next. Okay.
Anything for the record? Okay.
No.
Okay. Yes,
Surprise.
Stewart, yes, ma'am.
Okay, Patricia Stewart, 679 Lamberton Street.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to reiterate what Mr. Faust said. This reverse 911 call system that the city has instituted is working very well, and it's greatly appreciated. Also, at last evening's STARS meeting, Detective Luis Reyes was at our meeting with Lieutenant David Maldonado, who is the new lieutenant in the South Ward. They're both very fine gentlemen, and the organization appreciates their willingness to reach out to the community and work with us. That's essentially it. No complaints.
Thank you, Mr. Steve.
No. Be careful, Mr. President. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Thank you.
Mr. Clark.
Say no one else. Say no one else.
Yes.
Let me ask Mr. Clark anything to say. Yes,
Good evening, Mr. President,
Good
members
evening,
of
sir.
City Council. My name is Dion Clark. I live 323 Walnut Avenue, the East Ward, the Wilbur section.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to bring to the attention of City Council, what can they do about the post office downtown with the undesirables and the nonsense that goes on around there when you go in to take care of business or to get your mail. You have people begging you for money, intimidating you, saying cruel things if you don't give them money, they'll F you up and things like that. Well, how can that be dealt? And I know some of you guys had to have come across similar situations, especially this post office right here.
You're talking one right there.
Yes.
That is a valid question and or concern. Just for the record, we got police officers downtown. Downtown is saturated with police officers. And I've seen the patrol. I've seen the patrol come through there. Now, I think they take shifts come through there, and folks are begging around there. But particularly state workers and people going in for business, I think it should just be brought to the attention of downtown. What's that? The Metro Division? Patrol downtown. If we just inform the Metro Division, we just take and make this bill. Take the police division, Metro Division to.
Well, honestly,
just take attention around the post office. Yes, sir.
Because when you go in there, can I go in and spend my whole day there hanging around the post office begging people for money and being a nuisance? I'll probably get locked up right away if I went down there and did it. And then in the summertime, they stay in there all day and suck up the air conditioner and bed. I know it's got to be videotaped and cameras in there.
The post office is a public facility. That's one thing I know. Okay. A lot of those people who come down there are homeless men who must vacate the shelters in the evenings and everything, and during the daytime.
Well, that's justification for me to hang around and ask people for money.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying their actions. I'm just saying, but I've been seeing where that's a public building. I mean, I've seen them come around City Hall and think, Right, but what I'm saying is, there's nothing we can do.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
I'm saying it is a public building,
right?
But if they're certainly causing nuisance out in front of the building, parking, begging, whatever the case is,
that's why I brought it to council's attention.
That's definitely what I'm supposed to do. Mr. Warner.
Yeah, Mr. Pintal, just basically gave a recommendation to administration that we notify the postmaster that we're receiving complaints of undesirable
Because they have
within
postal
the
police,
post office.
they have postal police.
Correct.
Inspectors, yeah, inspector police, the postal police.
And since it is federal, we should notify them of the complaints of our constituents.
You bring the lunch? Well, that's right, you live right there.
So Councilmember Thayer, you've seen some of it then?
And I called the police.
Okay.
That's what I did.
So this ain't Dion's
No,
one
no,
man
no.
crusade. He's just not
Matter of
making
fact,
this up.
Dion,
Okay.
when I was coming out of the house today, the guy asked me for 80 cents.
Okay.
80 cents.
Give them $1.
I told him I was
Now, Councilman, maybe this is something you, the council, and the administration can deal with. When our new $65 million train station get done, a lot of undesirables hang around there. That's another
Yes.
So don't push that one off and say, well, this and that. How are you guys going to address that issue?
Well, traffic police have been patrolling that area pretty good. I've seen them pulling cars over as far as Walnut Avenue.
Okay.
I've seen them on Greenwood Avenue, and their cars are a little white. They don't necessarily have the markers on them, but I've seen them around Hamilton, Trenton Avenue. I've seen them pull over a few people.
Okay.
And I don't think the same train station that was, you'll see this train station.
Okay. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
You're on the record.
Plus that train station is in the redevelopment area. We've initiated that whole area, the redevelopment area with the bridges. The goal is to purchase the properties, not on Thompson Street, but above Thompson Street, Walnut Avenue, Chestnut Avenue, and properties up there. All that's slated for redevelopment.
Now, my third question on to my issue with the slum landlord. When will the administration be ready to present their...
Not a problem. Ms. Haynes,
Another 2 weeks to went by.
Are you almost ready preparation for presentation?
I'm at your disposal to set a date, so.
Okay, we'll work that out momentarily.
Yeah.
I'll expedite that at the point now.
Because I've been doing a lot of research, and I went about this all wrong, always attacking the Department of Inspection. My complaint really is with the administration and the federal government, especially with the Section 8, with these slum landlords. They bankrolling them, telling them you can do whatever you want to do. And that's why the slum landlords don't even fix up the property, because their money is coming from the federal government. And when the federal government stopped that bankroll, then that's when these slum landlords tell the city that y'all can have it back. But that's on down the line. The RCAs and this economical development has a big part to do with this here. But when we get to this with the administration, I will address that. I'm doing a lot of homework, and I'll be ready.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome. You're more than welcome. Anyone else on my list?
Yes.
Okay. Motion in public comment? Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Civic matters.
The advantage of the people.
Oh, Lord. Man.
Oh, God.
Come back. Mr. Segura. Mr. Malone. Mr. Costa, yes, sir.
Yeah, just one item. I had a meeting over the weekend with some council residents talking about parking. We did not find a cure for parking bills in Trenton, but there was some good discussion and debate that went back and forth. And one point that was brought up concerned a statement that the mayor made while he was campaigning. I didn't hear it myself, being preoccupied. That
Campaign.
yes, that's right. But in the interest of transparency, but that during the campaign, he mentioned the idea about taking vacant lots, perhaps renting them out for a period of time to residents within the neighborhoods to help mitigate some of the parking issues. And that was brought up as to whether or not that was moving forward, whether anyone had done a study, whether there was any consideration as to which lots might be viable for that, or how the program. I was asked, had it gone any further than simply something said on the campaign.
Let me tell you what I remember. I'm not going back to the campaign. This is an issue we dealt with prior to. No comes to light necessarily where we've had infill surrounded by housing, and the request for parking has been being utilized. Now, this may be a little further from the area that you're talking about necessarily, but I can tell you it wasn't highly favored by residents to turn empty spaces into parking lots. They were more that want to see a building or something else where an area fenced off, a park, a playground, whatever, something passive, anything other than parking. I did hear, and I know Ms. Stewart probably vividly remembers, because I think she probably might have made this presentation suggestion to us at one of our council meetings, if land was not being immediately utilized for developmental purposes, although every piece of parcel of land is slated for that at some point in time, could we use that as off-street parking? As to any studies as to that being taking place, and then I think there's other questions with regards to liability. And so contaminated, you have to pave over it, you have to fence it, you put proper signage up, is there exclusivity rates? Are you selling parking spaces? Are you doing permit parking spaces? I don't think it's an easier question necessarily to ask other than just providing space. And that's what I mean. Ms. Haynes, did you want to?
Yeah, I was just going to say that issue has been looked into. The mayor did ask us to. I would give $1 million who kind of led the review of it in his department.
And we had staff look at all of the areas where people were concerned about parking, or looking, from Chambersburg and Anderson, et cetera. And the point is that the city didn't have any vacant lots that were not slated for development, like the Chantel property. Any vacant lots in all of those areas are privately owned vacant lots. And the other part of the issue was, if there were privately owned vacant lots, and what would the cost be of acquiring the vacant lots, of paving and putting curbing and striping lots? How do we determine who it is that gets to park there? Are the residents going to be willing to pay for maintenance?
It's a good idea conceptually, but I don't know how you institute it realistically. Other than if you did it in without no controls. Did you get any suggestions out of your meeting?
Well, certainly, there's a thing that I've seen on the residents that if the city were to do a lottery or however dispense parking slot, that it would be trailer. Eventually, the land that would be used for parking would get developed. And it is a short-term solution. There's also the argument that a city might be able to make some money off of it. I don't know what the price point would be where you go from having to outlay funds, how long you have to have that lot in operation before you actually made a profit off of it. But it's something that's brought up, and I would ask to look at it. But I appreciate it. It's not a solving problem. Just a way to mitigate some of the
I hear
but it's not built for cost. It's the way it is.
I have a question. During your discussions, were you just able to identify potential spots?
Well, there's one lot, I think on Langston Street.
That's city-owned property?
No, she was quite big.
If it's not, it should be. I mean, George Costanzo has been dead, 10 years now? And I know his daughter walked away from the property. And the other two parcels?
I was going to say, I don't even want to touch that. If you see us smiling, we had this discussion prior to you coming back in.
Oh, okay.
In regards to property rights, property right ownership.
But how long, and I beg your indulgence.
Yeah, Mr. Stewart, I will, you don't have to beg. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm being polite. How long does the city let a property go where taxes haven't been paid before they say, enough, we're taking this property for back taxes? Now, one of the problems I do know with the Costanzo property, George had problems paying taxes to everybody, including the federal government. So I'm sure they'd want their piece. It's a
Well, I
rather...
say, Mr. With regard to there are ordinances on the book with regards to foreclosing on properties, but then I can also tell you that there's other people who own properties and lien holders, and it's sometimes not even worth the fight unless it's of an emergent nature to enter into those agreements.
Okay.
Take those properties immediately in the matter of public good. So.
Then the other option is simply enforce the parking regulations in the South Ward by the baseball park.
Then that may be one of your solutions right there.
Well, and there seems to be a commitment.
And particularly during baseball season.
South District folks to really...
Particularly during the baseball season.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ms. Cox, you still have the floor.
And the residents in the South, were they open to paying for spots?
Yeah.
Oh, I think so. I don't know what the price, who was going to be able to show that, but frankly, a lot of them purchase garage spots. Yeah, they're not in March short. Gotta make more land.
Individuals can make their own.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You said part of what Mr. Thayer. Did you get anything?
I'm looking for the next spot, sir.
You know what, then that makes two of us.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Mark earlier.
My apologies. I forgot. I literally forgot. I literally did forget.
Everybody speaks.
You know what? I saw you bring that, I saw you brought that.
You know, there are times you can call any director.
Miss Sting, please forgive me. You have the floor. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now the pressure's on you.
Hi, Joe.
Read the note. Read the note. I forgot. I'm sorry.
I do want to ask Public Works question. I wanted to find out, a while back you wanted to have a sale of the scrap metal over there, meters and things like that. Did you have one? And did you
we have still do that. And there's a couple of $100. Basically, it's all metal. And you take it and we'll search it for the copper pieces or whatever. It wasn't in that big visual dollars coming up. It wasn't going to get $15,000, $20,000. The dollar amount that Karen looked up said it was only like $400 or $500 or whatever. It's one big amount.
Right. And I had a question for Sam. Sam, this weekend, couple of Little Leagues had their opening.
Yes, ma'am.
How were they? All
Should have been postponed.
No, they actually did have their opening. Yes, they did have their opening. The number, the turnout was not great. Chambersburg probably had the best turnout of young people and parents.
fields were good.
Fields were in good shape, but the weather's not helping us at all. I mean, it's been very challenging getting those fields in shape because the ground is still hard.
Now, North Trenton opened as well. And is there any more talk about this press box?
Not currently. That press box has really been held up because of constraints to the area. And then they're changing the plans several times. And we've talked with Willie Smith about that several times. And they decide one week that they want to have the press box connected to the bathroom, and then well, that's not going to work. Let's look at a different configuration. We need to get a set of plans to be able to really work.
Now, did you know that he told us he was on interview in this thing?
Yes. No, we had that meeting.
Because it doesn't seem like it does. You're right. You ought to tell him again. If he wants to move, yes, you know.
We'll have another conversation.
Say what you mean.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a list of things, but I'll say.
You can call him.
I'm done, Mr. President.
We just say for the record to fully adjourn. I just want to respond to the fact that we received correspondence dated April 5th. The council actually supported this statement, but on behalf of the council from the Satosky family. Am I saying it correctly? Satosky family. For many of you who may not know, Wesley Satosky who's a member of the Mulberry Street Civic Association. He lost his mother, Bertha Sokowski, and he was just writing us a letter with some humble gratitude and thanks on behalf of council for our condolences and the loss of his mother. Oftentimes, members of council will write letters and take notes, some kind notes, and get it back. I get them, all of them done, that's come back to us, and I want to make sure that I read those expressions back to us, because people oftentimes don't think that we get those things. So that's possible. Okay? Mr. Day, please do me the honor on my matter.
Second.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? God bless. The next meeting is here on Thursday.